Chelsea's opponents for the fourth round of the FA Cup have been chosen and we have gotten away with it. Liam Delap has had a turbulent season thus far, but is still getting back in from Chelsea. A surprise face featured in training for the UCL game against Paris Saint-Germain tomorrow, but he's unlikely to make the squad. And Jose Feliciano of Clearlake Captial has come out talking about his thoughts on Chelsea and the model and how things are currently working, and I can't wait to see what you guys think about it. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And it's a big old news dump today, that's what it is. We've got loads of stuff to go through. Like I say, man, FA Cup, Port Vale have been drawn, so we're going to get into that and see what they're like, who they are and how they're doing. Going to talk a little bit about Liam Delap. We're going to talk about some of the players that have been training and not training in the UCL game. And obviously, we're going to take a look at Clearlake Captial and what they're saying about the model and whether it's been successful or not thus far. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing this video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so FA Cup fourth round, it's Port Vale. How do we get with these draws, man? We are so lucky with draws in general. Like, you know, to say, you know, the two games we've had in the FA Cup before this, obviously Wrexham and Hull, we had up until Arsenal, we had favourable draws with the likes of Lincoln and Cardiff in the Carabao Cup, and obviously going all the way back to the Club World Cup, we easily had the easiest fixture draw. Like, it was a little bit unfortunate for Paris Saint-Germain. They had to play like Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid and like loads of these big teams and stuff, do you know what I mean? And we completely got away with it. So, Port Vale, who are they? Where are they? What kind of game can we expect? So, Port Vale, League One side. Not only League One side, currently bottom of League One. Absolute at the bottom. They are having a terrible domestic season and look like they are going to get relegated to League Two. So you can see there, obviously they've played a few less games at the moment, but they also have, like, I mean, I guess they could make it up in 2 or 3, yeah, 3 or 4 games is what they've got on Northampton and Rotherham in League One at the moment. You know, and I imagine that's probably got something to do with their participation in the FA Cup itself, but they are not having a good season. They are rock bottom of League One at the moment. But in terms of the FA Cup, how have they been doing and how have they got here so far? So here are the list of matches that they have played currently, with obviously us coming up in the quarterfinals. So their first round, they won 5-1 against Maldon and Tiptree, and I don't know what level of competition they are in. Do you know what I mean? I've literally never heard of them before. Second round is where the pattern starts. 1-0 win against Bristol Rovers. Third round, 1-0 win against Fleetwood Town. Who are we? Cod Army. That's where my family are from, by the way. FA Cup fourth round, 1-0 against Bristol City. So, you know, they're smashing the Bristol teams. And fifth round, they've just beat Sunderland 1-0. So, up until Sunderland, it's, you know, kind of as you'd expect, it's lower level competition. But they've obviously got something going on there because they're doing so bad in their domestic season. They are getting good results. The result against Sunderland is amazing, really, isn't it, at the end of the day? Now, I don't know how strong the team Sunderland put out were or anything like that. I wasn't, you know, paying a huge amount of attention to it, but they have beaten Premier League opposition already. So, you know, that's, but, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? 1-0s across the board. So they have a game plan, and their game plan is beat you 1-0, apart from Maldon and Tiptree, who they managed to put 5 goals against. So, you know, I imagine that means Maldon are like Conference or something, League Two maybe. They haven't even got a badge on the thing. They don't even have a logo badge on the thing. So look, we've gotten away with it, haven't we? We have absolutely 100% gotten away with it. This is a really, really great draw for us because it will allow us to comfortably rotate. Like, we rotated against Wrexham, and it was a really, really tough game, but Wrexham was so good. But this, you know, we are going to be able to put out whoever we want, essentially, for this game. Now, that's not to say it should be taken lightly. Like, obviously, their game plan is, like, we'll beat your team 1-0. So what that probably means is we're going to be coming up against a stinky low block, and they are going to try and make the best of their counter-attacking opportunities. And the win against Sunderland is impressive, nonetheless, right? Absolutely it is. But it's a bit of relief, isn't it? It's almost like a free hit. And maybe I'm being disrespectful. Like, if you're a Port Vale fan, you know anything about Port Vale, like, I'm just looking at the, you know, the picture of where they are at the moment. They have had a good FA Cup run, but ultimately they are only beating these teams 1-0 for the most part, and they are rock bottom, looking to get relegated to League Two at the moment. So easily, I mean, we've played a couple of League One opponents this season. We've played Lincoln, who are currently top of that table, and we've also played Cardiff. And we didn't make those games look particularly easy. They were tough games, do you know what I mean? 100% they were. But this just feels like a hit. Let me know what you think about it, guys. Personally, I'm buzzing that we drew Port Vale, especially with, there was Liverpool available, do you know what I mean? There's obviously like Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal are all still in this competition, and we are probably going to come up against them, and that's absolutely for sure. But Port Vale, yes, I'll take it. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on. I want to talk a little bit about Liam Delap because I saw an interesting tweet from PYS, but it was basically a repost of something that Kave Solokol said on Sky Sports News. He said, just in, Chelsea still believe in Liam Delap, and behind the scenes, they feel he's been unlucky with injuries. The message from inside the club is that you have to back him and give him a bit more time because he's still young. So, how do we feel about this, guys? How do we feel about this? I have not been super kind to Liam Delap, truth be told. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Like, he's actually scored 2 goals. He's a striker, and the type of striker that he is as well. He's not like a João Pedro or a Nicholas Jackson, where he's obviously got all of this other stuff to his game. Do you know what I mean? He is 100% a big flat track bully striker who you should be able to expect to get the ball up to him and for him to score goals. And essentially, he's just not been doing that. He got 3 assists against Hull. Do you know what I mean? Which is, that was an impressive performance. There's a lot of arguments, and some of you guys in my comments have had some really interesting points to make about this. Largely that he's just not being played in the right way by the managers that we've had. And although I do agree with that to an extent, like, I don't think we've just seen that direct Liam Delap sort of formation that got him 12 goals in the Premier League last season for Ipswich. Do you know what I mean? He's not the main man when he's on the pitch where he was with Ipswich. But yeah, so supposedly Chelsea still backing him, and I expect that means that he's probably just not going to get loaned, or, and I did a keep loan or sell video recently, and although I wasn't sure, I did end up saying, do you know what, keep him around. We've got Emmanuel Omega coming in next season. I think a bit like João Pedro is just the guy at the moment, isn't he? Like, João Pedro is just one of the best strikers in the league, probably one of the better strikers in world football. Maybe in the top 10. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to have a conversation about where we think João Pedro ranks in world football at the moment. But with Emmanuel Omega coming in to offer Liam Delap some competition for that rotational role, I think next season could be pivotal in his development. And also, we've had a lot of players that have come good in their second seasons. Cucurella didn't have a good first season. Moises Caicedo didn't have a good first season. Enzo Fernandez, not a particularly good first season. It's basically only Cole Palmer and Esteval to a lesser extent that have come in and just hit the ground running, haven't they? So I'd love to know what you guys think about this. Liam Delap sounds like he's being backed, and we're probably going to keep him at the club for next season. Do you think that he works in the team, the formation, with the manager we've got? Obviously, Liam Rosinia has had him at Hull before, so they're not strangers to each other. They had, worked together before. I like Liam Delap. I'm just not seeing enough from him in terms of, like, we need people that can score goals, right? Like, that's football, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, I'm loving that João Pedro is absolutely banging him in left, right and centre at the moment. But Liam Delap needs to start picking. I mean, a good backup striker needs to be getting more than 10 goals a season, doesn't he? At the end of the day, that just absolutely needs to be happening. And Liam Delap, barring some unbelievable purple patch, it's not going to happen. If he can get to 5-6 goals, I think that, might salvage his season a little bit. But even still, just thinking about that, 5-6 goals, not really enough. So guys, let me know what you think about Liam Delap in the comments. And we're going to move on to the surprise inclusion in the UCL training. It was Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill's back out on the pitch. Yes, absolutely love to see it. It's been hard without Levi Colwill this season, man, because he was the guy that you banked on. Do you know what I mean? What was happening a lot last season was Levi Colwill was the mainstay, and the centre-back that he played with was being rotated quite a lot. This season, that's kind of been Trevor Chalobah, but Trevor Chalobah, not as good as Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill has a really particular set of skills as well. Really, really good at intercepting. He's not a massive tackler, actually, but really good at intercepting, and obviously really good with the ball at his feet. So it's nice to see him back in training with the boys with a smile on his face. We're getting closer. I looked at a thing the other day that said May is maybe when we can expect to see him back, but if he's feeling well enough, does he get a cheeky shot or a couple of minutes at least in the Port Vale game? Because maybe that would be a good way to bring him back in. So sticking with the Champions League conversation, obviously we're playing PSG tomorrow. Training also included Cole Palmer, Cucurella, João Pedro, Palmer's been named twice there for some reason. James and Levi Colwill, and who wasn't training is Esteval Williams. So that's a little bit concerning because he's been out for a little while now, hasn't he? And Esteval Williams not been able to get massively consistent game time this season, although we all know he's very capable and he's very, very good. Ultimately, what you do see there is, yes, Palmer, wicked, love that. Cucurella obviously has been starting to appear back a little bit recently. João Pedro, brilliant. Reece James, there was a little worry about Reece James. I think a little worry about Reece James maybe not being fit for this game, but he's out training, so I think we'll be okay. And Levi Colwill, I don't expect to see Levi Colwill in the matchday squad. I think this is 100% just about getting him back out on the pitch and training with the boys, do you know what I mean, and getting ready to come back slowly, which is probably what it's going to have to be, because we can't just throw him back on the pitch, because, you know, look at what we've done with Reece James, and Romeo Lavia now we're starting to see some minutes from. I imagine very much that Levi Colwill was probably not going to be playing consistently until a couple of months into next season at the earliest. Do you know what I mean? At the absolute earliest. Cool. So yeah, Champions League, looking like we've got a good squad, and it's just good to see Levi Colwill back out on the pitch, right? So to finish up the video, guys, I want to talk about, Jose Feliciano, one of the quieter faces of Clearlake Captial, working with Bedad Egbali, has done an interview with Bloomberg, and he has basically had some stuff to say. So it's just interesting, isn't it, for another perspective? Obviously, you know, it's all Todd Bowley and Bedad Egbali, but there are so many people involved in this thing, do you know what I mean? So it's just interesting to see what he had to say about it, and I don't think I've ever seen him say anything before, so I'd love to know what you guys think. So he started off, he was asked a few questions, and one of the, you know, this was aggregated by CFC Daily, so much appreciate that. And he started off by saying, if you own a sports team or club, you have to understand that you're a steward of something much broader, and the impact on the community is much broader than just a business or just a sport. So look, I don't take issue with this as much as, because that is true. Do you know what I mean? That's 100% true, but it's the actions, isn't it? Like one caveat, and one thing we'll preface all of this with is, it's a lot easier to say the right things than it is to do the right things. Do you know what I mean? But what he's saying there already is like what a lot of us are worried about is just being turned into this big capitalist monster machine, and the fans are being forgotten, and the culture's being forgotten, and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? They've got nothing but the bank balance in their minds. So look, he's saying the right thing. Whether he means it or not doesn't really matter, because ultimately we will see that with things like, you know, how they address fan culture and the signings. Obviously, that, you know, it's always going to come down to the transfer market, isn't it, really? Because they've been so doggedly stuck to their, let's buy young players and, you know, make the best players and raise their profile and sell them on for money and stuff. And as of right now, we've had successes with it, don't get me wrong, but it's not just come in and worked, is it? It's definitely taken a little while. He went on to say, secondly of all, we take very seriously that Chelsea has been in top 6 in the Premier League, this is worded a bit strangely, and we intend to not only stay there, but we intend to compete for trophies every year. We intend to win the Premier League someday soon. So look, a lot of the conversations that we've had recently, it's like, you know, there was this whole big thing where it's like, oh, the owners don't care about the Carabao Cup and stuff like that. And it's like, of course they do, man. Of course they do. Like, no, do they care about it financially? No. If you sat down and asked any Chelsea fan, financially, do you think it's important to win the Carabao Cup? Same with the FA Cup. The answer's no. Do you know what I mean? That isn't necessarily like, they don't care about it. It's just that, like, you get like 100 mil for getting to this stage in the Champions League. And I think the winnings for the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup are like a 250 grand or something. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of like the business model, which is horrible to talk about, but it is just true, like financially they aren't important. Are they important for momentum? Are they important in order to get the team feeling good in a way? Like, if you're winning the Carabao Cup at this point in the season, you've got a trophy, your squad's galvanised. It is important. Do you know what I mean? Of course it is. And whether the owners and, Jose Feliciano cares about the money side of these smaller competitions, I don't really care about, because it's for the squad and the manager to care about winning these competitions to improve themselves as a football team, which is ultimately what we're talking about, isn't it? So look, he again coming out saying the right thing, because one of the things that fans are worried about is like, oh, we don't care about winning, we just care about making money. But the two things do ultimately go hand in hand. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to end up as another Tottenham who are looking to get relegated, even though they're one of the best run financial models in the country. He finished it off with something that I thought was quite funny, and I do appreciate him for this. And he, whether he actually knows it or not, or he's just saying again, trying to say the right thing. I don't know, but I just thought it was funny anyway. He said, "Well, we just won 2 trophies last year, so kind of depends a rough patch for whom, So he's basically being asked about like the rough patch, like Chelsea are going through a rough patch at the moment, but he's coming out and saying we won 2 trophies last season. We're in the hunt for Champions League this season." Compared to competing for the Premier League title and being solidly in the Champions League spots and stuff, do you know what I mean? Yeah, of course, maybe we can consider that a rough patch. But then he went on to say, Arsenal hasn't won in 20 years that I have checked, or maybe they won something. So look, I love the fact that he just shames Arsenal in this, even though they're like, they're still in all 4 competitions at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And they're obviously having a really good season. But that's good Chelsea, isn't it? That's good Chelsea. It's like, slander Arsenal in the press. I love it. I absolutely love it. If they're going to win the league, I need something. And Feliciano coming out and basically calling Arsenal trophyless is brilliant. I love that. But the truth of the fact is they have won 1 FA Cup and maybe a Community Shield. I can't remember if they won the Community Shield, but they've at least won 1 FA Cup in the last 8 years, 7 years, which is how long Arteta's been there. And they haven't won a significant trophy for a long while. I would argue the biggest final that they'd been in for like 20 years or whatever is the Europa League final against us in Baku, and obviously we walked out winners in that one under Antonio Conte. So look, that wins me over a little bit. Do you know what I mean? He's like, because the thing is, it might be a case of like, right, I want to get Chelsea fans on side. What can I do? I'll come out and slander Arsenal. Like, yeah, I love that, man. I love that. And look, this doesn't change how I feel about like the model and the ownership in general and stuff. I think there definitely needs to be changes. We absolutely need to see some experience come in the door. We need to see holes filled with players that can come in and do the job, rather than just like, look at this 19-year-old who's got great stats in Portugal. Do you know what I mean? Let's just bring him in and hope for the best. Because if we do keep on doing that, it's going to get harder and we are going to slip 100%. But little things like that, it made me smile. I'm not going to lie, it made me smile. They're trying to do the right thing. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, ultimately, actions speak much louder than words. And the only thing I really care about in the long run is the actions of the club that he has admitted that they are custodians for. They are stewards for this club, do you know what I mean? And the community and the fans is ultimately what builds these clubs. And in order for us to feel good and be a strong team and win all these titles that we're talking about, they're going to have to adjust the model. Do you know what I mean? And there was some other bits that I didn't clip up, but he was like, I think it's showing success so far, the model. And it's like, well, it is and it isn't, isn't it? Because if you look at some of the players we've arguably got some of the best players in their positions in world football. Marco Correa, unbelievable left back. Moises Caicedo, Cole Palmer. Do you know what I mean? João Pedro, as of right now, is looking absolutely on fire. It's brilliant. But we're not competing for stuff yet. I mean, we still, there's an outward shot that we might win the Champions League this year. I guess we'll find out how likely that is going to be tomorrow when we take on PSG. But at the same time, it's, like I say, the actions for me will speak louder than the words, and the actions need to be adjusting the transfer policy in order to win something. Like, and that's not even to say that they can't go back to focusing on youth, do you know what I mean? But it's like where we are right now, we're banging our head against a brick wall, being like bringing in Garnacho and Jamie Gittins and expecting them to get us competing for the Premier League. It's not happening, do you know what I mean? And we can't carry on doing stuff like that. And we can't, as much as I love Esteval Willian, as much as I'm really excited for Giovanni Quenda when he comes in, we can't just keep going out and buying those players and expect that to equal success and trophies as well. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'd love to know what you think about everything today. So, we talked about Port Vale, who they are, where they are. I'm very happy that we drew Port Vale. It feels like a bit of a free hit. Liam Delap is still going to be backed, and he is very young, and there is a lot of potential there, so hopefully he can come good. But how do you feel about that? Levi Colwill back on the pitch. It's just great to see. Esteval Willian probably not going to make the Champions League game tomorrow, so we might see him again soon in domestic stuff. And yeah, Feliciano coming out chatting big about the model and slandering Arsenal. Like, I've got a lot of time for that, man. I've got a lot of time for that. I appreciate it. If he'd have dropped something in there about Spurs getting relegated this season, because that'd have been the other thing he could said, isn't it? It's like, you want to talk about a rough patch, it's like our London rivals are going to get relegated this season and they spent loads of money. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, the important thing isn't what they say, it's what they do. And I do believe that although this kind of stuff is nice or whatever, don't get me wrong, like we need to see some adjustments in how they address fan culture and the transfer market. And then we can start having a chat about whether we are going through a rough patch and whether they are good custodians of this club. Nice one, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up there. I hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day, and I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.